The billionaire froze when her paralyzed daughter suddenly abandoned her wheelchair and rushed across the garden toward a stranger everyone had been told to keep away from her. For 3 years, 12-year-old Ivy Loran had not taken a single independent step. Yet that bright afternoon, something inside her changed when she saw a quiet single father standing beside a maintenance truck. Her mother stared in disbelief as Ivy pulled herself forward with trembling arms, determined to reach him. Nobody understood why the girl who had rejected nearly every stranger was suddenly trusting this man. Nobody knew that the humble father was hiding a past as a Navy SEAL. If you believe kindness, forgiveness, hope, and second chances can change someone's life, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, leave a meaningful comment, and subscribe to our channel so you can remain part of our family and our community. Celeste Loran had everything money could buy except the one thing she wanted most, to see her daughter walk again. At 38, Celeste was the founder and CEO of a global fashion technology company, a woman whose decisions could move millions of dollars in seconds. Her private home had elevators, specialized therapy rooms, medical equipment, and every convenience imaginable. But none of it could erase the pain she felt whenever she watched Ivy sitting in her wheelchair. 3 years earlier, a terrible accident had damaged Ivy's spinal cord and left her unable to walk. Doctors had never promised recovery, yet Celeste refused to accept that her daughter's future had to be defined by a wheelchair. Ivy was intelligent, stubborn, and fiercely independent. She hated being treated as fragile. She hated when people spoke to her mother instead of speaking directly to her. Most of all, she hated the way strangers looked at her with pity. Celeste believed she was protecting Ivy by surrounding her with specialists and security, but Ivy often felt as if her mother had turned protection into a cage. Their relationship became complicated. Celeste loved her daughter desperately, but fear had made her controlling. Then there was Grant Holloway, a quiet single father who worked for a facilities company servicing Celeste's headquarters. He spent his days repairing doors, checking safety equipment, and maintaining the company's gardens. Nobody paid much attention to him. He wore simple work clothes, drove an old pickup truck, and never spoke about his personal life. He was raising his 10-year-old son, Wesley, alone after losing his wife to illness. What nobody at the company knew was that Grant had once been a Navy SEAL. Years earlier, he had served in dangerous operations overseas, where he learned how to remain calm when everything around him was falling apart. After leaving the military, he struggled with memories he refused to discuss. Instead of chasing recognition, he chose a quiet civilian life centered around his son. He wanted Wesley to know him as a father, not as a decorated soldier. Ivy first noticed Grant on a sunny afternoon when he was repairing a gate near the company's garden. Her wheelchair had stopped beside a flower bed, and a caregiver was preparing to push her away. Grant noticed that Ivy was watching him work. Rather than approaching her, he simply continued repairing the gate. He did not stare at her wheelchair. He did not ask what had happened to her legs. He treated her like any other curious child. That small detail fascinated Ivy. Over the next several weeks, Ivy began visiting the garden whenever her mother brought her to headquarters. Grant never tried to motivate her with pity. Instead, he challenged her mind. He showed her how mechanical locks worked, explained why certain plants needed different amounts of water, and let her help organize harmless tools. Ivy discovered that she could learn from him without feeling like a patient. Grant's son Wesley eventually joined them. He and Ivy became friends almost immediately. Wesley brought model airplanes, and Ivy helped him design unusual patterns for the wings. Their friendship gave Ivy something she had been missing for years: normal childhood companionship. Celeste watched all of this carefully. At first she was grateful. Then she became suspicious. Her security director investigated Grant's background and discovered his military history. The report contained references to classified missions and elite training. Celeste immediately became frightened. She had spent years protecting Ivy from danger, and now a former Navy SEAL had become one of the most trusted people in her daughter's life. She ordered Grant to stay away from Ivy. Grant did not argue. He simply respected her decision. But Ivy was devastated. She stopped visiting the garden. She became angry during therapy sessions and refused to cooperate with exercises she had once enjoyed. Celeste tried to explain that she was protecting her, but Ivy saw it differently. To her, her mother had once again taken away someone who treated her like a capable human being. Then one afternoon, something extraordinary happened. Ivy was attending a charity event at the company with Celeste. Hundreds of people filled the sunny courtyard. While the guests watched a children's performance, Ivy noticed Grant working near the far side of the garden. She had not seen him in weeks. Her heart raced. Without waiting for permission, Ivy pushed her wheelchair forward. Celeste called after her, but Ivy continued. The wheelchair crossed the courtyard faster than anyone expected. Ivy reached Grant and stopped directly in front of him. She lifted her arms toward him, tears running down her cheeks. Grant immediately knelt beside her. He did not ask her to explain. He simply stayed beside her until she calmed down. Celeste watched from several yards away, finally understanding how much the separation had hurt her daughter. But before she could reach them, a loud metallic crack came from the temporary stage. One of its support beams had shifted. People panicked. The crowd began moving in every direction. Ivy's wheelchair was dangerously close to the unstable structure. Grant reacted instantly. His military training returned with perfect precision. He moved through the crowd, directed people away from the danger, and reached Ivy before anyone else. Instead of grabbing her recklessly, he secured her wheelchair and guided her toward a protected section of the courtyard. He then helped several children escape before the structure collapsed into the empty space. Emergency personnel arrived moments later. Nobody was seriously injured. Celeste stood trembling. The man she had feared had just protected her daughter without hesitation. Later that afternoon, she finally asked Grant about his past. He explained that being a Navy SEAL had taught him how to survive danger, but fatherhood had taught him something more important. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is remain calm enough to let another person find their own strength. Celeste realized that was exactly what Ivy had needed. She had spent years trying to make her daughter strong by protecting her from everything. Grant had helped Ivy become strong by trusting her. Celeste apologized to both of them. Grant accepted her apology, and Ivy finally smiled. From that day forward, everything changed. Celeste began allowing Ivy to make more decisions about her own life. She hired therapists who respected Ivy's independence rather than simply focusing on what she could not do. She also created a foundation providing mobility equipment and rehabilitation resources to children whose families could not afford them. Grant became involved in the foundation, helping families understand that disability did not erase courage, ambition, or dignity. Months passed. Ivy's physical condition did not magically disappear. She still needed her wheelchair. She still faced painful therapy sessions and difficult days. But something inside her had changed. She no longer measured her future by whether she could walk. She measured it by what she could accomplish. One afternoon, Ivy participated in a charity race designed for wheelchair athletes. Celeste stood near the finish line while Grant and Wesley cheered from the crowd. Ivy pushed herself forward, exhausted but determined. When she crossed the finish line, she did not win first place. She did something better. She proved to herself that she did not need to become the person she had been before the accident to have a beautiful future. Celeste cried as she embraced her daughter. Grant stood nearby, smiling quietly. Before the final moment of this story, we want to hear from you. Please leave a meaningful comment telling us what Ivy's journey means to you. Do you believe real strength is about standing on your feet, or about continuing forward when life forces you to take a different path? Your words may inspire someone in our community who is struggling with a challenge nobody else can see. Years later, the garden at Celeste's headquarters became part of a foundation for children with disabilities. At its center stood a small wooden bench that Grant had built himself. Ivy often sat there with her friends, telling stories, planning future projects, and reminding younger children that their limitations did not define their dreams. Celeste eventually understood that her daughter had never needed a mother who could control every danger. She needed a mother who trusted her enough to face the world. Grant had once served as a Navy SEAL, protecting people in places where fear could mean death. But his greatest victory was not hidden inside a military record. It was helping a wounded child believe that her life was still worth living fully. And Ivy's greatest victory was not walking again. It was learning that she never needed to walk to move forward. She had a different path, a different strength, and a future that belonged entirely to her. Sometimes life changes our direction without asking permission. Sometimes the person we fear becomes the person who teaches us courage. And sometimes the greatest miracle is not that someone rises to their feet, but that they find the strength to rise inside. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey.